Joining me now, Mary Trump, niece of Donald Trump and author of a second book on the Trump family. The new title is Who Could Ever Love You? A Family Memoir. I wish you guys could have heard me in the commercial break extolling the virtues of this book to Mary. It is extraordinary, and we are going to get to your book, which is a very compelling read. But first, is it surprising, Mary, that he says he won't do another debate unless the mood strikes him, and for whatever that's worth? Would you have expected him to take every possible opportunity to go toe-to-toe with VP Harris? Do you think he's afraid of her beating him a second time?
First of all, Alex, it's wonderful to be with you. It's been a long time. But I think Donald showed his hand, well, during the debate for sure, but immediately afterwards. Winners do not show up in the spin room, and winners do not turn down an opportunity to win again. So he knows he lost this debate. He knows that he will lose the next one. And the only mood that would strike him to get him to debate again would be desperation. If he felt that the only thing he could do would be to try to do better next time, because, you know, he can't, he can't deny that he did not have a good night. But on the other hand, and I think this is one of the reasons he went to the spin room, he thinks that just by virtue of his showing up, he can change the narrative. He's always the smartest person in the room. So I think that will be operative if the polls are changing in Vice President Harris's favor, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, I think it would be the most foolish thing he could do would be to show up for a second debate.
I guess we'll see again if the mood strikes him. On to the next thing, because he has also defended having far-right activist Laura Loomer in his personal entourage, even as his MAGA allies are pressing him to ditch her. Do you know Trump to be someone who is prone to conspiracy theories like the ones floated by Loomer on social media? Does he actually think that way, or does he allow others to influence him? Does his brain work that way?
It's actually worse than that. Donald has absolutely no ideology. He has no quote unquote philosophy, except that he will do whatever's good for him. So he will attract people who are willing to debase themselves to support him. He's made it very clear. The appeal to him of people like Laura Loomer is not what the hatred she spouts, although, I mean, that's definitely a side benefit. It's that she supports him. That's really all it takes to get him to embrace you, and much, much worse for us, elevate you. Because we've seen this. Nothing's new here, Alex. And I think we need to take a step back sometimes and remind ourselves of this. Donald has been doing the same thing for almost 10 years now. He surrounds himself with the worst of us. He espouses the most dangerous, vile rhetoric and conspiracy theories, not because he believes them, but because it makes a certain segment of our population support him more. And here we are 10 years later, and it's the same thing, but the dangers inherent in what he's doing have increased. And all we need to do to know that is to look at how much worse the people surrounding him are. Laura Loomer is one of the most vile human beings to walk the planet, and how much more effective and targeted his stochastic terrorism is. And we see that in Springfield, Ohio, where he and J.D. Vance are terrorizing a hardworking community who do not deserve the kind of hatred and bigotry they're throwing at them.
So let me draw on your PhD in psychology here, because I'm curious why you think he would repeat these lies about Haitian migrants in Springfield. Does it have something to do with his upbringing, with his childhood?
Well, I think partially because racism comes very easily to Donald Trump. He grew up in a very racist and misogynistic family. It is not a surprise to me that as he's gotten older, both of those things have worsened. This is somebody who has no self-awareness, who has never done the work to make himself a better person because he thinks he's great. So he doesn't have to change anything about himself. So he will always take the most expedient route towards shoring up the people who already support him, who, again, many of them are just the worst of us. You know, they're the white supremacists and the Christian nationalists and the neo-Nazis, who, of course, Donald thinks are very fine people, again, because they are on his side. So, again, we can't lose sight of how dangerous it is. And he will always go after the most vulnerable populations in our country. And it's despicable, especially if you consider it's all in service to his ego and his narcissism and keeping him in power and potentially keeping him out of prison.
So this book, Who Could Ever Love You? It is a courageous book to write. It is delving into your past, its emotional effect on you. It also reveals aspect of your uncle's early life. Was writing it cathartic for you? I mean, I'm curious what you want readers to understand about you, about your family, and that includes your uncle.
I wish I could say it was cathartic. It was quite difficult to write, and no, it did not actually afford me any solace. It did, however, feel necessary. I got to a point towards the end of 2023 where I realized I was not doing well. I was barely subsisting, let alone thriving. And I couldn't figure out why, and I needed to figure out why. And I realized that, you know, a lot of us are experiencing the same thing. I mean, I came into this crazy time we're living through already having complex post-traumatic stress disorder, but the last 9 years alone for many of us have been traumatizing in and of themselves. And I think it's incredibly important to, one, face what we're dealing with and understand where Donald Trump came from, who he is, what he's capable of doing, but also how it's affected us and how we are going to do the work when hopefully after November, we stabilize a little bit more, because in many ways, we are a broken country. And the best evidence of that is that Donald Trump is the candidate for the presidency in one of our two major political parties. And unless and until we do the work, we're going to have to keep fighting these battles we're fighting, which don't get us any closer to the ideal of a democracy that represents all of us equally. We are so far from that right now. And I think we need to understand what's keeping us from getting there, how we've been harmed, and what we're going to do about it.
I am going to be in touch with you. I want to get together, go through some of the things in this book that we couldn't get through in the commercial break. It's beautiful. I'm a walking advertisement for it. It's so revelatory. And congratulations, my friend. Wonderful, wonderful writing. And I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.